What is going on YouTube? Today I'm going to be making a video on how I started my motorcycle parts business by parting out sport bikes and selling them for a profit at 17 years old. Now I'm fairly new to this business, but I'm going to be going over the bikes that I have parted out currently and actually sitting in the bins right here. This is some of the part inventory that I have currently on hand. I know it's a little messy and it's a little confusing, but I'll explain that later in today's video. But back to what I was saying, I'm going to be going into depth of, what bikes that I've bought, how much I've made from them, how much I bought them for, and the process of really just parting them out and selling them online for a profit. Okay, this is my eBay store online. So this is where I list all the parts that I have, or about like most of them. This is where I take pictures of them, post them on eBay, and then hopefully sell them on eBay. Now, like I said, I just started out, so I don't have a lot of items. I have 69 listed items, and they're not all of them are motorcycle parts, but a good majority of them are. Like, as you can see, I do have the sport bike right there listed on eBay, but that is a different, kind of thing. It's still, with motorcycles, but I just did have that, posted on eBay. But this is like majority where I have all the parts listed here. So this is where I, take all the parts and post them on eBay and such and such. So I don't, like I said, that was really all I have. I don't have many parts listed on eBay, but I've also sold within the time being, maybe like in the first month, I've sold a few parts as well. And I can actually look at the parts that I've sold here. Let me go to this tab. So this is my feedback tab. I have 10 positive feedback, which is good for selling on eBay. You definitely want to have good feedback, because if you don't have good feedback, then people won't buy from you. But if I go to my selling here, you can see how many things I've sold. I've sold a total amount of 1,200 within the last 90 days. So, some little stuff like this. Bolts for $15, headlights for $115, an ECU for $275, another ECU for $246, a rear seat for $40. This is, you can disregard this. This is personal. A wiring harness for the headlights for $15, a control for $15, a rectifier $25, another control for $40, and then another, cluster for $300. Or I think that was the only cluster on here actually that I sold. A lot of them were ECUs. But anyways, so I have sold some stuff, and the stuff that I have sold are like big ticket items for motorcycles. So like the big, like expensive parts, like the ECU, the cluster, the headlights, and stuff like that. So far, I would say that I'm doing okay on the bikes. Now, I actually have a track list of the bikes that I keep for all the parts that I sell. So I'm going to show you guys that next, and how I kind of, organize everything and see how much money that I'm still negative in. Because, once you buy a bike, let's say you spend like $1,000 on a bike, cool, you sell a $15 part, but you're still negative, like 900 some dollars, almost still that negative 1,000, and you still have a long way to go until you sell the rest. So I basically just like to keep track of everything that I sell, and I actually have a list, and I'm going to show you guys that right now. Okay, so let's start with the first bike I had. This is the first bike that I actually officially decided that, hey, I'm going to part this out. I'm going to try this business and see how it goes. So I have everything here kind of like nicely organized somewhat. It's not perfect, but I think it's good enough. As you can see, the green is what I've made, the red is the negative, and then the green at the end is what I've profited so far. So this is a 2008 Yamaha YZF R1. I spent $1,600 on the bike. I paid $1,500 for the bike and then $100 to get it home, so a grand total of $1,600. The first thing, as you can kind of see, these are like listed in order. So like the cluster was the first thing to sell. That was $238 on eBay, which was the total that I got from it. I posted it for $300, but eBay takes their fees and stuff, so I totaled up ending getting $238. So then I sold the left side rear set for $80, the mirrors, the windscreen. The gas tank was pretty big that I did not sell on eBay. That was a $300 part. Then the plastic tank cover, sold that with the gas tank. The rectifier on eBay. The fairing set, which was a lot, $300, but I did not sell that on eBay, so I didn't have to pay any fees for that. The ECU, I did sell that on eBay for $200. And then I have other stuff right here that I sold in person. The rear caliper bolts I sold on eBay, but that was the last thing I sold on eBay for this bike. So the group lot was a bunch of, it was, let me see, it was the wiring harness, a bunch of bolts, and a bunch of other stuff as well. I sold that all for about $260. So I am almost now profitable on this bike. Finally, after the months I had this bike. I had this bike for a while. Like, I probably had, it's December the 5th now. I probably had it, coming into early fall, and then I decided, hey, I'm gonna part this out. And then I finally decided that I was gonna part it out, and I started parting it out and listing the parts, and I started selling the parts. But it came a lot from, starting at $1,600 all the way down to, knocking that number all the way down to finally making some kind of money. But I also did sell the handlebars in person for $100. So that puts us at a grand total of $51 so far. But as you can see over here, I do have, whoops, let me turn the camera down. All right, so my phone actually got maxed out on storage. But what was I saying is I do have some of the parts for the R1 still left. I have the motor, which is, a big ticket item. The motor was running, but there was something wrong with it. But I, have it listed for $1,000. So that'll hopefully eventually sell. They go for like $2,500. But I have the front and the rear wheel. I mean, this is pretty rashed up here. But I do have the forks. Those go for some good money. They're not leaking. I do have the radiator, the rear subframe, a box of other stuff, the seat, and some other stuff. I have the mid-pipe and the headers, but I can't. Don't mind the messy room. The room is a little messy, but the headers and the mid pipe, these got what am I trying to say here? They got oh my god, they got stripped. That's what I'm trying to say. The bolts in the mid pipe for the servo got stripped because of all the heat and the cold. It weakens the head bolts over time, so then they get stripped over time. Or not, they don't get stripped over time, but when you try to take them off, they get stripped. Anyways, I'm done talking about the mid-pipe and the headers. That's just, I can't speak right. But I do have this left. I do have some parts left that I do not have listed. This is not for the R1. This is actually for another bike that I'll get into that I had taken off of. But this triple clamp here, this is for the R1. And I think that's really about it. These other parts are for other bikes that I will get into. But yeah, back to what I was saying. I have most of the bins, kind of organized for the bikes that I have. So this is the R1, and I do have some big parts of the R1 left. So that $51 will hopefully get a little over $1,000, especially once I sell the motor for $1,000. I don't want to sell it on eBay because shipping will definitely kill me. I might post it on eBay, but yeah, I'm gonna put a picture of the bike on the screen right now, so then you guys can see what these, parts came off of this bike was. And yeah, but let's get into the other bike that I also have parted out currently. Okay, so this is the other bike that I currently have parted out. It's an 01 Yamaha R6. I paid $300 for the bike. I have sold some parts on there. I sold the rear caliper, the headlight wires, the right side controls, the front seat, the headlight. So we're down to $82. We're still negative in profit, but I still have a decent amount of stuff for this bike. As you can see, this whole bin is full of it. I also have the frame with the clean title in my name. But here's some other parts that I have for the bike. Some of these aren't listed, like these Ram Induc air intakes. I don't have those listed because, I don't know, I just never got to it. But I do have some of those parts. I have the forks as well. So basically, we're just waiting on, some of this stuff to sell for this bike to get us past the $82 negative that we are into it for right now. But I do have one more bike that I actually am parting out right now, and it's this CBR. This is exactly the bike that it is. This is a CBR 929RR. It's a 2001. So basically, the front end on this bike is completely intact for the most part. But like the rear end, it's totaled. Like the motor fell out of the frame. The rear wheel, it's terrible. I can put some pictures on the screen right now if I have any pictures. I don't know if I have any pictures, but it was It was actually my personal bike, and I got into an accident on it, and the bike's totaled. So I decided that I'm gonna part it out and stuff. And I did sell, if I can pull it up here, I did sell the ECU for it pretty quick. I mean, I only had it listed for maybe a day or two, and it sold for $275. I do have some parts left over from that bike. Actually, I have a lot of parts left over, but like this is from the bike. I have these controls are from the bike. Just a few parts that I need to take pictures of and list, but that was that bike. So yeah, there was that bike. So that's the 3 bikes that I mainly have on eBay right now, and I'm trying to part out currently. The bike that you guys seen on my back home screen, this one I have on eBay for sale right now. I have it up, shooting towards the moon. 15 grand. It's unlikely I'm ever going to touch those numbers because it has 17,000 miles, but it is a super clean CBR 900 from the late 90s. It's a 99. It's clean title, 17,000 miles, has a lot of aftermarket parts on it, of course, but I also do have the OEM parts, which are on the floor actually. But it's got a D&D exhaust, some other stuff, but this is another personal bike that I have. And then I have a few other bikes that I'm selling that I don't have posted on here. Those will be in another video. This is just my first video. If you guys can't tell, I'm stuttering a lot, and I don't know what to say. This is my first video, but yeah, I just wanted to come on here and talk about the parts business and kind of like how I started it. I guess I started it because of this R1 that I bought to flip, which you guys actually seen here. I can actually pull up a picture of the bike here. I bought this bike originally to flip. I didn't end up flipping it. Here's the bike. If you guys can see, obviously not with that, but this is the bike, if you guys can see that. I intended to buy this bike to flip it. It didn't go as planned. So I decided I'm just gonna, screw it. I'm gonna part it out. This is not working. So I parted it out because it was starting to get into winter as well. So the bike sales were kind of hard. I mean, they did have it pretty cheap for obvious reasons. I had it, fairly priced, and I definitely could have sold it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I 100% could have sold this thing, but there was a lot of other parts on here, and it kind of helped me get my foot into the door about this parts business. So I'm thankful that I did part this out, and then I found these other bikes to part out. But yeah, I don't really know what to say about this bike, man. I mean, like I said, I bought it to flip it, and I ended up parting it out, and I think that was one of the best decisions I've ever made, because now I'm in the part out business. I'm proud to say that I'm in the part out business, you know what I'm saying? I haven't made a lot of money, but I think it's going to work out over time. I think the more, bikes that I get for sale, the more I sell, the more money I'll make, obviously. But it does take a long time for the part out business, to finally start making any kind of money. Like, as you guys can see, I just showed you guys the charts. I mean, it's taken me, I've had this bike for quite a few months, and I'm still negative $80 in it. But I also do other stuff. I have other bikes for sale right now that I'll get into in another video. But I guess that's gonna wrap it up for this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you guys subscribe, like, and comment if you guys stayed this far. I appreciate that, but I don't really know what else to say about the parts business. This is kind of like just foot in the door, I guess. I can't really show much. I guess I could show you guys my setup of what I'm working with here. It's kind of nice for desk setup or whatever. I got the old sport bike AGV helmet. This is like brand new. It's pretty nice. I don't know. Why not? Some sport bikes for display, whatever. The clean desk. Always have a clean desk. I don't know. Just not having a clean desk is, especially when you're trying to work too. I got the laptop here. I have this book here, Road to 10K. So I'm just gonna give you guys a sneak peek. This is, a lot of the bikes I have in here are the bikes that I'm flipping, selling, parting out. This is like this month and last month. And this month we're only into it 5 days. But this is back to Road to 10K again. Because I used to have, a good amount of cash in the spring last summer. But we blew it all after that accident and, whatnot. But the first page is, completely filled. The second page, we're working on it. But I do have some bikes up for sale. That'll be in another video. But I just wanted to, come on here and show the setup, I guess, you know, talk about the parts business and kind of how I got into it and how it's working out for me. And, you know, show this video as my first video. And then, I hope to make more videos in the future. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys, like I said, hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you guys subscribe for more. Turn on the notifications, too, for when I post next. That's going to be it, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.